Good morning and welcome to Ag Talking Raw, where we talk raw about agriculture and other things that are on my mind, like politics. And if you don't like listening to politics, agricultural politics mostly, and, of course, what's going on in the world today, if I can stomach watching the boob tube, which I can't do lately. This whole thing with what's going on in Washington is just like, I'm going to blow my fucking brains out. So anyway, we're going to answer questions today because I haven't really done too much of that in the last couple of episodes. The first thing I'm going to answer is this Tristan Decker. He is 22 hours ago. He posted, he says, "Can you understand Dutch because is saw that you were sub to Master Milo 82. Well, no, I cannot understand too much Dutch. I can get through some of it. I have this rather weird ability to understand other languages. Not all of them, obviously not all of them, but I pick up rather quickly, but my tongue is twisted and tied, so speaking it is not going to happen too much. As far as Dutch is concerned, yes, there are some words that I can pick up and get the gist of what is being said if I have been around that language for any amount of time. Now, being as I've been quite close to the Amish community out here in Pennsylvania, I actually have heard and learned a few words that I can understand what they're saying. Not always at all. I mean, the best thing to do with other languages is learn the foul language, because then you'll know that if there's two people talking and the foul language is being stated or said and they're kind of laughing and looking at you, then you know they're talking bad about you and you can go over there and punch them in the face, and it's perfectly legal because who wants a foreigner talking shit about you? But anyways, yeah, so no, I can't understand Dutch. I can understand some of that, a few words here and there. And, it's kind of cool when you can do that. Tagalog a lot more because of Teresa. French, I have no clue. I'm sorry, I've never been exposed to a Frenchman. But yes, Dutch and German, obviously German. I had a friend that was Swiss, and she spoke Swiss German, and she taught me some words over the years, and or over the course of a year that I was friends with her, and then she moved away and got a new boyfriend, and that was the end of that. Our new boyfriend did not like the fact that she would talk to me. So, jealousy thing. Anyways, here we go. I think that a person's personality and beliefs is based off how they were raised and influenced by religion or race. Yes, and I think that stems back to what I was talking about with the Muslim thing, how I would actually like to meet a Muslim man, a decent one, not some radical Islamic jackass, because I think that's all I've ever met in my life. Another person, and I'll probably catch up to that one later, was talking about a Muslim woman. Muslim women will smile and talk nice to you, to your face, but they're holding a dagger behind their back. That's what that one was. A few videos ago, you were talking about ethanol. I thought you might like this. Well, I haven't watched it. I'm going to have to take a look at that again later. And I know some Christian people and they are very good. Christian fancy. I guess you could call me a Christian. I was raised Christian. Baptist Baptist Church was where I went to school for, was that 3 years? 2 or 3 years? 2 years. Maybe it was 2 years. Met a lot of good people there, good friends. But it doesn't matter whether you go to Christian school or not. There's always going to be a drug abuser in those in the Christian schools, as long as public schools. It doesn't matter there, because I know several people that have just fell off the deep end from, and they were in the Christian schools also. Oh, okay. Wes, you must also know it. Would not matter if had been Obama or a miracle worker, the economy would have did the same in that same time frame. Every country suffers the economic disaster in those years, which I doubt Obama could be blamed for. Other country problems as well. Lending institutions were leading people that were making $20K a year mortgages on houses that cost $500,000. Who could have ever seen a problem with that? Well, I could. The impending foreclosure played a major role in the downturn. One thing led to another in a domino effect. Jobs were lost, in which caused more foreclosures. Buyer confidence was at an all-time low, which in turn caused factories to close, etc., etc., etc. Even if Trump had not been elected, things were turning for the better. It was all in the timing, but it does make him look good. Okay, so, all right. There are some things that there's a lot of truth to that. I can agree to a lot of that. Yes, lending institutions were allowed to do whatever they wanted. When I bought this property, my income was steadily climbing every year, and I think that's what lenders were counting on. For the majority, because if you have the majority that's incomes are climbing and they're going to pay those mortgage rates, you got to understand that a mortgage is paid from the top down, or the end backwards. So when you buy a house and you mortgage it for let's just say $300,000. I didn't borrow that much on this house. I borrowed $177,000 because I had $10,000 down. That's all. Normally you need 20%, but I only had $10,000 to put down on it, but I had a crop of hay and everything worked out for the better, and I purchased the property. The majority of people were on those income levels that were creeping up. So if you have the minority of them that are, getting foreclosed upon, it really wasn't that big of a deal because the lending institutions were getting the interest back. I mean, if you got a 30-year mortgage, it takes you 15 years before those numbers are equal. So, and the numbers I'm talking about is interest and principal. So here you're paying a huge amount of principal, and they kind of come together like this. Boom, 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 boom. And then, boom, when you get to that 15 years, then you start to pay more principal, and it goes away. That's why if you have a 30-year mortgage and you put an extra $100 down on the principal of that mortgage, like I did, I was putting $160 a week more towards my mortgage there at the end before I paid my place off. I have no mortgage on this house, and I bought it in '03. So it was quite an accomplishment to get it paid for and do what I've been doing, which is great that I was able to do that. So as far as elected officials, they're just pawns in a bigger plan, and Donald Trump doesn't fit the plan. Therefore, everybody and their brother hates his guts. Even though he got elected, they still hate his guts. So, let's see. Can I give an update on my Model A? Well, the guy that's doing the work to it, he has another job that he's working on and can't get it in. So, it's probably not going to go to him until after I get back from my trip. Wes, you make such clear, logical, political sense, which is why it's hard to listen to you, because I can't be there to agree and discuss in person. Okay, preaching to the choir stuff. Thanks from Live Free or Die, New Hampshire, a state changing in philosophy due to the influx of liberal city dwellers. We need a visa requirement at the Massachusetts-Vermont border. Well, yeah, live free or die. I mean, that... Honestly, America today is like, I wouldn't want to say socialist Germany of the 1930s, but they want that. They do. They don't want to burn Jews and kill Poles, They just want everything handed to them. And the guys like me and you up there in Vermont or New Hampshire, I say Vermont because I was looking at Massachusetts and Vermont border. You guys want the same thing that I want. I want to live free. I want to be able to put a pistol in my pocket and go to the grocery store, and if just for my own personal protection. But here in the great state of New Jersey, we're communist or socialist, and might as well say we're socialist. We don't have that freedom. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, they've infringed upon it, and why the U.S. government, the federal government, hasn't told the state of New Jersey that you can't do that is beyond me, because it is in the the United States Constitution, to keep and regulate militia. a well-regulated militia, and the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so I have to look at the Kura Maritime Museum in Kure, Hiroshima, Japan. That's where I'm going to go. I want to go see that museum. I want to see the other side of the coin. I've only seen the Enola Gay drop that big-ass bomb and the boxcar. You know, if you didn't know who dropped the bomb on the Nagasaki, it was the boxcar. And I would like to go to Virginia and go through the Smithsonian there and check out the boxcar and the Enola Gay, and after I come back from Hiroshima, because it just kind of will tie that whole thing together. Muhammad Ali was a Muslim. Well, actually, no, Muhammad Ali was not a Muslim. He converted to Islam, and he wasn't born into it, so he already had that rationale thinking that, you know, some of the stuff that's in the Quran, that ain't kosher. Could you imagine Muhammad Ali going out and inviting me, or he's dead now, but let's see, who would he would invite? He would invite Will Smith to his house. I remember Will Smith, you know, standing up with Muhammad Ali after 9/11, and so I know Will Smith is a Christian, so at least he was. Could you imagine Muhammad Ali inviting Will Smith to his house and saying, hey, I think you should convert to Islam, and when Will Smith says, nah, I like Christianity better, do you think Muhammad Ali would behead him? Because that's a direct jihad, you know, according to the Quran. The Holy Quran, as the ex-president would say it, as though he slept with that book at night. Okay, the best memory is loading hay into the barn and getting a few minutes to grab water, cool off under a big oak, lying in the cool grass. Yes, that is exactly. Well, we had apple trees that we would lay under until later in the season, when they would fall, and then the damn yellow jackets would come out, get drunk, and sting the shit out of you. So we didn't like that. This guy says, I grew up on a 40-20 and a 856 International when they was new. Please don't be ignorant towards marijuana. Your TV is poisoning your mind. I'm not ignorant towards marijuana. I think that if you're going to, I think it should be treated like alcohol, except for the fact that the state should not be selling marijuana. If you want to grow marijuana on your property, and you must own the property, you can't do it in a rented facility on rented ground, on your own property, and you want to smoke it in your own house or on your own property, I'm okay with that. But the second you leave your own property and you have marijuana on your person, or you're high, and don't tell me you're more alert when you're high, because guess what, Skippy? I know a lot of high people when I was young, and they were not more alert. You could kick them in the teeth and they would laugh at you because they were fucked up. So anyways, with that being said, yes, there are some medicinal purposes that you can use marijuana for, but again, your own property, your own property, your own property. If you're caught outside of your own property with marijuana in your pocket, it should be treated exactly the way it is right now, with the intent to distribute. That's just my opinion. If you don't like it, too fucking bad, because this is my channel and you can go somewhere else. I don't smoke, but what's your thoughts on the road drinking alcohol? I don't drink and drive. That's stupid. I've had a cousin get killed because of a drunk driver, and he wasn't even hurt. Because he was drunk and he was limp and limber, and he flopped around inside of his car. My cousin was wearing a seatbelt and he was crushed into a brick wall. That's what I was told. Happened when I was young. And Joey Vinci, that was his name. May I suggest that you should lighten up on Rush Radio Talks, Let's Talk Farming. Okay, grow corn. That's right, grow corn. Now, there's nothing wrong with growing corn. I would love to grow corn again. As a matter of fact, when I was out with Timmy Cornpicker, I enjoyed the picking corn. It was awesome. A major co-op in the Northeast released a letter that, with their milk check, about suicide prevention. It has increased in the past year, and they figure it will get worse. Well, if I was milking cows and that was my only income, I think that I wouldn't have to worry about suicide. I'd be working somewhere else, because there was just no way. There's no way that you can produce milk at $2 under cost for more than a few months and still have your farm. So, yeah. Agriculture was up during Obama at first, but it's down now with him to blame. Russia and China were huge imports. Now Russia doesn't accept anything from the U.S., and China tries to buy most elsewhere. Well, that's not entirely true. There's containers. There's 2 container filling stations here in Newark where they're filling containers on a daily basis to ship to overseas or to China was where it was supposed to go. Chinese got sick and tired of them loading up 24% moisture beans and it arriving rotten. That was always an issue. So they had to get their hands on that or get a handle on that. Yeah, and here's let's see. You brought up an interesting point about drug testing at work or even before getting hired. A recent article discussed how some large companies are no longer testing for cannabis, marijuana, pot during their hiring process or even after a person is hired. I do not agree with this change, but something we need to be aware of. Linked to this article. Yes. You see, here's another thing about marijuana. You are impaired. It is an impairing drug. If you're a pot smoker, of course you don't think there's anything wrong with it. I am not, but I've been around pot smokers, and me not being a pot smoker, I know what it does to them. I've seen it. They are not aware. They are like, their head is literally in the clouds. They really don't care too much about what they're doing at the time they're doing it while they're high. Maybe they do a little bit more when they're not high. There is no heightened sense of awareness, or maybe they have a heightened sense of awareness, but it's only in their own high mind. So, yes, I think that companies should continue to test for marijuana because they are private companies, and those private companies should have the right to say, hey, you know what, we do not accept anyone with a level of THC higher than 0 in their bloodstream. Unless you are a cancer patient and you are on a prescription from a doctor that states that you need marijuana or THC or whatever drug it is that contains THC to help cure your problems. Why did I go to Jacksonville, North Carolina? I went down and picked up Teresa's mother. We're taking her back to the Philippines. Take a Geiger counter to Nagasaki and Hiroshima. You know, the funny thing is, Timothy has one, and I'm going to see if I can get it working, because it has these antique batteries in it because it's old. So the 4430 is not back in business, but it is. There are some things that are going to be done to it. The bearings in the axle shafts are shot. They need to be replaced. So, what would be your all-time favorite tractor and why? My all-time favorite tractor, I don't know. I'd say that I could, every time I get a new tractor, it's like my favorite tractor, but my go-to tractor is actually now the 7530, because it's a snappy little shit, and it turns nice, it goes down a road fast, it can do big jobs and little jobs, so I guess you could say the 7530 at this point. Used to be the 7810, but now the 7810 is just too rough to ride in. I'm a big pussy now, Here's one. In my opinion, bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is war crime because civilians were killed, not soldiers. So you're telling me that no civilians were killed during the attack at Pearl Harbor? That's not true. They were killed too. The Japanese were killing, let's say, the rape of Nanking. They didn't rape the men, they raped the women, and they didn't have women soldiers there. You had the rape squads in the Philippines. They killed Filipinas, anything over 35 years old. And when the rape squads would go out to grab these women to take back to the commanding officers to rape them to death, if you were over the age of 35, you were over the hill, they wouldn't rape you, they would kill you. And then you were dead anyway, it didn't matter. I mean, they raped girls from the age of 12 all the way, maybe even before the age of 12, right on up to 35 years old. You're 35, you're done. They just shoot you because you weren't worth the fuck. They would, the virgins would go into the into the commanding officers. The commanding officers would take their virginity because they were young girls. And if you don't know anything about the Philippines, they're very conservative there. There are probably more 20-year-old virgins, 30-year-old virgins in the Philippines than there are anywhere else in the world. So they would take their virginity and then pass the girls off to the enlisted men, where they would rape them to death. So an atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was more than justified. Actually, I think there should have been 6 or 7 of them dropped, like 6 or 7. If they had 6 or 7 bombs dropped, end of problem. They would have stopped immediately, and then maybe some of the rest of the world that was destroyed by the Japanese over a 50-year span. They started the Reign of Terror in 1895. It didn't stop until 1945. 50 years of rape, murder of civilians, and of course, armies and, that's navies and things like that. They were horrible. So do a little more research and then come back there, Ivan Delic. The Japanese killed more people than those atomic bombs ever could have affected. They're just more pissed off about it. And while I'm there, I'll be very respectful. I will not say anything negative about them because we are 70 some odd years past that. 1945, or 72 years past the atomic bomb. So there you go. Is it 72 years? Nah. Yeah, 72 years, I think. Something like that, anyway. I don't know. I guess I could do my math. Math isn't my strong point. It never was. I love what you said about country kids. Well, it's true. Just because you're born here in the country doesn't make you doesn't make you a country kid. It just means you were born here and you were raised by 2 cityites that moved here, and you're no different than anybody else just because you got a jacked up truck that blows diesel smoke. And the kids that were raised on farms that are driving like normal people, in normal vehicles. Yes, there's a few that have diesel trucks that are blowing black smoke, but they're more interested in raising their animals and raising a good crop so you can eat, cheaply. By the way, Timothy got a shirt here the other day, and it came from the local FS Grow Mark, and it said, producing affordable food for the world. Well, producing affordable food for the world is actually putting a hurting on, you guessed it, people that produce the food. How about a fair price for the food and a fair wage for the farmer? That's what I say. Getting a fair wage for the farmer is next to near impossible because farmers cannot organize to form a union that would say, hey, food processors, this is what you need to pay us. It just isn't going to happen. I would be the leader of that organization. I really would, because when I was in the milk business, my grandmother and my father milked cows, and before I started YouTube and growing mulch hay, I was milking cows too. I was more the field man, but I was in that business. It disgusted me that we never stopped working any harder than anyone else, and they cut our pay. We'd have a problem with the herd, whether it was we had yonis in the herd, and that's something you don't really want to talk about. But yonis came from the white-tailed deer. Don't ask me how they got it, but the white-tailed deer can handle it a lot better than a herd of dairy cows because you're pushing dairy cows, and yonis is just chronic wasting disease kind of sort of a thing. And so we had that in the herd, and we did get rid of it. We were able to get rid of it by identifying and cleanliness. You had to clean shit up in order to prevent it, pulling young calves away from the mothers before they could contract it, and we did. We got rid of it. It was hard, but we did. But in the end, $11 milk in 2011 and $4 diesel fuel. Give me a break. You can't even run your tractors for that. We needed new equipment, and it wasn't coming from the milk industry. It was coming from the mulch industry. The grain industry was okay, and that paid for some stuff, but then that started to tank, so we quit that. Well, it wasn't tanking. It was the deer that got us. Deer, and deer. So that's the end of that. But anyway, I'm going to do another one. Non-ag, and don't believe you trying to kill me, but worked in a feedlot. Yes, there are a lot of... Yeah, there's somebody who said at the very beginning of this thing that vegans are... Where in the hell is that? It said something about vegans and all dressing up, saying that God. I was talking about, I can't even see it now, but they were talking about the vegans and the vegetarians saying that we rape our animals by stealing their milk and, or breeding, artificial insemination. Well, you can go to the hospital. There's a lot of women going in there to get bred like a cow would. And it's a shame to say it that way, but it's the truth. So, are the women getting raped by doctors, or are they going for a procedure? The difference is a bull on the farm is very, very dangerous. Timothy got attacked by our bull back in the day. His name was Ferdinand. I shot Ferdinand. I shot him in the knees with a .22 rifle, and I put a 12-gauge slug in his head. And the knees was to slow him down, but the slug was to kill him. And then I skinned him out and ate him. So he was a good bull for that purpose. Artificial insemination, that cow would stand for the bull, just like she would stand for me to shove my hand up her ass, and that's it. So 25 minutes is long enough for me yammering on about this. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out One Lonely Farmer if you don't subscribe there already. And if you do, thank you for being there. And I'm going to put a link to this channel over there on One Lonely Farmer subscription. So if you want to make comments over there saying, hey, go check out Ag Talking to Raw, you can do that. I'd appreciate it. Thanks again.